Hey guys, we are back here at the Sales Pavilion, San Diego Comic-Con to talk about the Hasbro sales at Comic-Con. And so once again, every year we bring this guide with the best information we have to prepare. Big disclaimer off the top, policies change all the time with everything at the con, so just be prepared that what we talk about can always shift. We never know. A big change for us a few years ago was just how they had people access it on preview night. We had no intentions of going after Hasbro on preview night. We never do, because it's just a mess with exhibitors all getting in there and their friends. And all of a sudden, where the Hallmark line normally is, became the Hasbro line, and all of a sudden we were in that line and we got our exclusives taken up that way. So that being said, again, big disclaimer, we're shooting this 5 weeks out. Make sure to ask questions throughout the con, and actually we'll have some suggestions related specifically to that. Now for us, we've had a lot of success with Hasbro over the years. A lot of it's been involved of just working with other people to trade things and get things that way. It's also been obviously having a lot of strategy in terms of when to get in line, where to get in line, and how to be prepared for that. So we'll talk more about that as we go along as well. The biggest thing off the top with all of the exclusives is to make sure to understand that there's really 3 major mindsets that are happening at the convention. Number one, you've got the exclusives collector. You know, the collector mindset is that I need it, my con won't be complete without it, and definitely that can be said for a lot of the things that Hasbro sell. You've also got the scalper mindset. These are people that are really trying to pay for part of their bills. It doesn't mean that they're here exclusively to grab things and resell them, but it does mean that that's part of the intent of the con. There's also some people that just come with a group and they're fighting for things to help pay for their bills and things like that. So you've got that mindset. And then thirdly, a lot of times people that watch our videos fall into this category. You just have the regular attendee. They want a Transformer, they want a Star Wars toy, a Marvel toy, whatever it is. And so you have to kind of understand that going into that, it means that you have to have a really big commitment to the Hasbro process if you want to get one of those exclusives, because you're going to be battling people that feel like their con isn't complete without the exclusive, and also people that are needing it to help pay bills that are going to resell it. So as you go through and listen to this video, make sure to keep in mind those are the types of people we're dealing with here. So right now we're at sales. This is where the actual golden tickets are handed out, right here behind us. So to talk about that, so to get into Hasbro line, you've got the everything else line. So from Hall H, Hall G area, you've got the Hall H line, you've got the everything else line. You're gonna get into that everything else line. Make sure to ask as many questions as you need to, although it shouldn't be too hard to find. That line can stretch all the way out to the marina and beyond by 5 in the morning, 6 in the morning. It really has become very busy over the years. Now last year, we were of the mindset that you really needed to be in line by 6 a.m. The reports to us, although we did not mess with it on Thursday morning, was that by 4 a.m., people that had gotten in line by 4 a.m., a lot of the tickets, if not all the ticket times, were out. So really tough go of it Thursday. Wednesday was the typical tough go of it. So a lot of people then resorted to Friday. And that for us was the strategy last year, and it again is the strategy this year. Now obviously things can vary with panel interest and things like that, but in general, we recommend targeting Friday. There's allotments for the entire con. There's also daily allotments. So there's never an assurance that everything will still be left Friday, although in our experience there usually is. Also, make sure to understand that while you're in line, and we'll talk more about this in a few minutes, but while you're in line, the allotments can vary. They can say that we've been in line before and they've run out of something, and then by the time we get to the front of the line, it's back in stock because they just had to go get it off of the, you know, the dollies in the back or things like that. And so that can vary. Don't let that scare you too much. Now, if you are going to wait till Friday, a major recommendation from us is that on Wednesday and Thursday, spend a little bit of your convention time doing some research and making sure, is everybody still lining up here? Is there still an everything else line? You want to make sure the day before that to get everything locked down. Think of Thursday almost as a dry run. Hopefully a lot of people battle things out on Thursday, get out of the way, and then Friday's a little bit easier. That said, obviously it's going to be a very competitive environment any of the days. Now on that Friday, in terms of lineup time, it's really impossible to know exactly when's the latest you can get in line. Obviously it's the constant question is how late can I get in line and still be in good shape? More and more though, it's looking like that 5 o'clock time zone. So I mean, we'll definitely retweet things and people will be posting things everywhere, but it's hard to know till the morning, and so you really do have to ask yourself, how valuable are the items that you get? So walking through that morning, you're going to get here, let's say it is by 5 a.m. on Friday, you know where you need to be. It is the everything else line. You make your way into the convention center. We'll have a separate video of the entire floor and kind of map that out for you, but you'll ultimately make your way up the escalators. You'll split off into this area, and then there will be a line probably that extends all the way out here, maybe down the stairs. Eventually you'll make your way into the doors over here. You'll get a ticket. It'll say 3 p.m., 4 p.m., 12 p.m. And then very much like a fast pass at Disneyland, you show up at the time stated, get in line. Now we're going to move from this and we're going to look at the actual sheet that you fill out and talk about what happens when you're actually in the queue on the convention center floor. All right, so we are picking back up. Obviously, we are breaking the video into two parts this year, which we've not done in the past, but I think this will be more effective. So talking about things kind of on site and just getting a little bit of a visual of being there in sales, and now moving to talk a little bit about what happens once you get onto the floor and you're at that Hasbro line. So you'll have your Fast Pass ticket, you report to the Hasbro booth, there'll be security there to check that you have your ticket, that you're ready to go, everything's set in alignment. Now, one thing to be careful of, because we've had a lot of people be kind of confused by this, but because of the overwhelming demand for Hasbro, sometimes the line, even with the tickets, because obviously some people come late to their ticket time, some people come early, whatever, but it can get into an overflow situation where not everyone fits into the immediate queue in front of Hasbro. When that happens, as silly as it may sound, what they'll ask you to do is just kind of circle and keep moving. As I've talked before, it's kind of like duck, duck, goose. Just keep going, and keep checking back as you get. So if you see a swirling vortex of humanity around the Hasbro booth, don't worry, that is normal. It just means that the line itself is basically capped and they can't let anybody else in. And people want to stay close. Obviously, there's the option of, we'll just go do something else, you know, go to a panel and come back in an hour. But nobody wants to do that. Everybody wants to get their exclusives. And so people want to stay as close as possible. You can't just stand there and clog up the aisles because of the fire marshal, so you got to keep moving, and so that's what that is all about. Okay, so then you've got your sheet, and again, if you are hitting it up a little bit later, what we suggest is get this sheet on Wednesday night. That way you can peruse it, take a good look at all of the limits, and what you'll have then is a really simple sheet to fill out, and you'll go through and find the things you're interested in, mark them. Definitely don't be filling this out in line. You know, you really don't want to be filling this out in line because, one, you're going to feel rushed, and two, everyone around you, or I shouldn't say everyone around you, but so many people around you are going to be asking you to pick up extra things for them. So they're going to see that maybe you didn't check the box for the My Little Pony, and they're going to say, hey, can I give you cash? You buy it from me. Obviously, it's your call if you want to go down that road. For us, we get requests all the time on social media, at Disneyland, at everywhere, of, hey, can you pick this up for me? Our philosophy is, we only buy for people we know in quote unquote real life, like people that we really know face to face, that we would have lunch or dinner with. We can't be personal shoppers for people. We just don't want to get involved in that. So the same goes for when we're at the Hasbro booth, is when we know we're in and when our friends know they're in, we call, text, communicate, hey, do you want this? I'm getting this. And sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't work out. So for example, last year we were able to pick up two of the Force Awakens Stormtroopers, the First Order Stormtroopers. Ideally, as you can tell with some of these, in a perfect scenario, I would like, in most cases, to open one and leave one in the package on many things. In this case, we're helping a friend out. We got one for us. We kept it in the package. We gave them one, taken care of. We weren't going to get back in. We didn't even know if we could get back in to manage a second time into the booth. So it was what it was. But going in with it filled out, you'll know your prices. What's nice, they already have tax included. They have the limit numbers. So you know, if you're working with a team to help each other out, sometimes there's tough choices. And that's why it's nice if you can find people that have slightly different interests. So for example, for me, I'm always a good fit for somebody that's into Transformers or My Little Pony or G.I. Joe, because although I appreciate all of those to varying degrees, I don't collect any of them in any real sincere way. So I don't have a problem of handing over a Transformer, a My Little Pony, or a G.I. Joe exclusive, or Magic for that matter. Magic the Gathering has been a thing the last couple years over the card sets. I don't mind trading those off, but I really want the Star Wars and the Marvel. That's kind of my main thing at this booth. And so with that being said, you can sometimes find good trading partners. Sometimes maybe you don't even need to get in the Hasbro line because you can go battle it out for Hallmark and trade away those things. But it's something to keep in mind. And so with that, make sure to understand that the stock goes in and out at the booth. And so while you're there, you may see something. We were there, the Uncanny X-Force set from a few years ago, Marvel Legends, they were out of stock, and then it was all of a sudden back in stock. And so it changes. They do have, to a certain extent, daily allotments, although they're not keeping things for all the days. I mean, you'll find, for example, the Star Wars exclusive a lot of times can go by the end of Friday or early Saturday. It just really depends. And some things you'll you'll find, I mean, the Infinity Gauntlet seems like one of the things I wanted the most, the Jabba, one of the things I wanted the most, and both of those were sitting around Sunday. I could have just walked up and gotten those, so you never know. Whereas the Boba Fett was a much more competitive battle, and it was gone early in the convention. So you are kind of rolling the dice if you plan on waiting. Now, that said, you can be assured that Sunday there will be some things left over and no line. Sometimes we'll have people say, why do people wait in the lines? It's always just wide open on Sunday. Well, it's wide open on Sunday, but usually half the stock, if that. Sometimes much less than that. They've got a few things sitting around. So that said, if there's, if it was a case last year where they had an extra Stormtrooper sitting around, obviously that wasn't the case. You can go by on Sunday. This year with Rogue One, I have no doubt that the Rogue One figure is not going to be sitting around on Sunday. It's going to be one of the first things to go. And so as a result, I'll have to make a decision of how early. And as I said, right now we're leaning towards making that battleground on Friday. But as we said, things change. Now with that, as far as having trading teams or people, I mean, it's nice to know people there. If you don't know anyone going to Comic-Con, you can start getting to know someone at Comic-Con because you do have the ability to trade, whether it's swag or other exclusives or whatever. Just remember the difference between relative value and the true value. So, I mean, for me, if I'm trading with a friend, it's very much straight up what we paid at the booth. So, for example, this guy, whatever he was, actually, what was he? So he was $28 last year. The thing is, once I have him in my hand, he's worth like $100 to $150 during the con. If I were to sell it somewhere else, it's worth $100 to $150. To my friend, here it is, 28 bucks, that's it, because they're friends, obviously, and that's why I'm helping them out. But if it was some other con goer and I had a second one and I decided to get rid of it, I definitely wouldn't trade it for some other item that was worth $28 that you could easily walk up and get at a different booth. And this happens frequently. Matty exclusives are much easier to get on the whole than Hasbro or Funko, and you'll find we get people tweeting us all the time asking us to throw out trades and retweet them. And we only do when they're of good value, because relative value is a whole different thing. All of these take a different amount of effort to get to. And so once you've put in that effort, your time, luck, effort, all of that is worth something. And there's a dollar amount to that. And so this becomes a $200 item, not a $50 item anymore. And so do make sure if you have people, especially some of the scalping crew that can be down there, they may try to buy things off you, extra things. And you want to make sure that you're not taken advantage of. And, again, if it's a friend, obviously it's not taking advantage of. It's just working with them. So as you're having those types of proposals, as you're in line sitting there waiting with this, hopefully you've called your credit card company, let them know you're going to buy a few $100s of toys in San Diego so you don't get blocked or anything. You get up to the front, you give them this, and they are filling that order so efficiently and so fast. I mean, they are moving. They got it all up. Slide your card, give them cash, whatever. Here's your items. They will stamp your badge. Now, this is in the past. They've stamped the badges. And this is what lets them know you can't come back the following day and get another 2 Stormtroopers or another 2 Infinity Gauntlets or whatever it might be. Now that said, we know, and this is from WonderCon, we know the badges are changing. They've been sent out. Probably if you're watching this video, you already have your badge in hand. And so it's a little bit different. Now you can still slide out and they may still be stamping the badges in here, but it's a little bit different with the materials. So I'm not sure how or if that's going to change things there, but something to keep an eye on. But they will stamp your badge. You can come back at a later time to try your luck again to get something, but it can't be the same thing. So let's say, for example, the Infinity Gauntlet set is a limit 2. I already got my 2. It's marked off on here. Even if I get to the front of the line again, I can't get another one of those. I don't have that ability. I have my 2 for the con, and that is it. So if for some reason I needed 3 because I had a couple friends that wanted them or something, now it's about, again, trading, or I'm gonna have to go to eBay myself to buy it, or whatever it might be, to make sure that you are in good shape and that you have that. Now, kind of wrapping up on that, so we've paid for exclusives, they've given it to us, and what they will do is give it to you in these giant bags. I mean, huge bags here. And, if we look, this bag, I'm 6'1", this bag's almost like 3 feet long. It is huge, it is normally heavy, and it is massive. And so if you are buying for a few people, as we are never buying just for ourselves. Whoever in our groups makes it to the front of Hasbro, they're buying for several people and helping people out. Most likely we're not going to have many open boxes. meaning to even help out somebody in line if we wanted to, because we're buying for a big group. But what happens sometimes is people get what I call shipwrecked, and meaning they are given these giant bags, they have 3 or 4 of these things, and then they're kind of pushed off the booth onto the regular carpet of the con, and then they're just stuck there because they can't move, because the bags are literally too much to travel the floor. So if you are buying anything more than a couple things, make sure you have a plan for that. Somebody's going to get in line with you to help you, or I should say wait at the end of the line to help you. Something where you coordinate so you're not stuck there by yourself with 4 giant bags that weigh as much as you, that you have to try and, you know, pull across the floor of thousands and thousands of thousands of people in your way. It's really, really a tough go there. And we see it every year. We see at least 2 or 3 people every day, if not every hour, just stuck, just sitting there, and you can't walk away from your stuff because somebody's going to steal it, and just kind of standing there like throwing their bodies on top of it like they're out of rock out in the middle of the ocean, just, you know, hoping for survival. So do have a plan. It's something that's often overlooked and, you know, gets missed then. So then the last thing in wrapping up, and we've talked about this on various podcasts, various videos, a little bit here and then, but really lastly, the fundamental question of, is this worth it? You know, it's funny, last year, the #1 comment that we got from people about the various exclusive videos or swag videos we did was this was the most helpful part, is really considering, is it worth it? And when you look at things, you know, you have to decide. So for me, I know for sure, even though it's not been announced yet, I know I want for Hasbro the Marvel Legends, the 3 3/4 inch, whether they're calling them Legends or Infinite Series or whatever this year, and the Star Wars. I know I want those 3. Maybe sometimes there's a really cool G.I. Joe Transformer or Angry Birds or whatever they have that I want, but I know for sure there's 3 things I want. So what I'm going to have to evaluate is, how badly do I want those 3 and how much is it worth it? So if we pretend for a second, let's just say it's this year's con and the exclusives were, you know, these Marvel Infinites for $100, these Marvel Legends for $100, and then this Star Wars for $50. $250 is what it's going to cost if I grind it out and get to the front. And let's say each of these is marked up $50, $60. And so now we look and say, let's just say 60, 60, and 60 to keep it, you know, with easy math. Or even if we want, just say it's rounded up, you know, we're talking about $500, let's say. So now it's costing me double. So now what I have to consider is, it's not that it's $500, it's that it's $250 for my time and energy and convention experience. Is that worth it or is it not? I don't know. I don't have an answer to that for myself right this minute. I'm thinking I couldn't do that. I don't think financially I'd be able to just kind of throw that $250 in and say my time's more valuable. But if I had a little bit more money, I'd definitely be tempted by it. And so depending on where you're at, it is a serious thing to consider, whether you're, you know, whether it's Hasbro, Funko, or any of these booths. It really is a serious consideration, because I don't think there's anything more valuable in life than time. Time is definitely much more valuable than even money, in my opinion. And now to take out this experience and say, you know, people are so obsessed with Comic-Con, they love Comic-Con. If you're watching a video like this, I'm guessing you love Comic-Con. Now to take a big chunk of your experience and give it back to you, what price is that worth? So if we kind of backwards map and say, okay, let's say I am going to go do this booth Friday morning, which again, as I'm recording this, I don't know. I'm thinking I'm probably doing this booth Friday morning, right? So as I'm thinking about it, if I had that extra $250 to pay someone else on eBay, scalper fees to get it, what do I get back in exchange? Well, I get Thursday night to stay out later, not worry about getting in line at 3 in the morning or whatever time I might get in line, 4, 5, 6, whatever it is. The morning, I get that time to put my energy somewhere else. Maybe I go to a signing, maybe I go to a panel, maybe I go get in line for another crazy exclusive that I battle out for. All that first part of the morning to about 10 a.m. is now freed up, whatever I do with it. Then, as we come to later in the day, maybe I got a 1 o'clock ticket. I no longer need at 12:30 to start circling the Hasbro booth and thinking about getting in line. I don't need to spend an hour in the Hasbro line. I don't need to spend a half hour getting my crew of friends together to carry all these packages to the car and then have to cover them up in the car and hope the car doesn't get broken into. I don't have to stress. And so it's very tempting. So as I said, I don't think for our budget that we would just skip the Hasbro line this year. But if I only want 2 of these things, or let's just say I'm not in love with any of them except for maybe 1. Maybe all I want this year is the Star Wars Rogue One exclusive. I really have to think, you know, maybe it's worth paying that extra $50. I'm not sure. And it's a very personal decision for everyone. San Diego Comic-Con is so expensive. So the last thing you want to do is throw extra money away. But it's almost because it's so expensive that you have to really consider it. There's been very few times I've gone to eBay for exclusives after the con. It's been very, very rare. Usually I'll just be patient and wait it out and see if the market drops a year or 2 later. And if that's the case, it's just easier for me to pick up that Rogue One exclusive in 2 or 3 years when episode 9 comes out or whatever, rather than right now while everybody's so excited about it. But I can be patient. I'm wired that way to have that gear. So you have to kind of consider that for yourself and think where that fits for you. But it is something I think that at least should be considered and at least thought about as an out for any of these exclusives, really. So hopefully this helps, gives you a little bit of an idea of what to expect at Hasbro. I know way back in the day when it was a lot less competitive and a lot less crowded, I still felt like I was kind of a deer in the headlights with the Hasbro booth. I remember literally in my first years, whatever it was 12 years ago coming to Comic-Con, I remember thinking that Hasbro was just an impossibility. Like it was just not even, it was as if the booth didn't exist because it just seemed so ominous and overwhelming. And then, you know, honestly, it probably the first several years I came to Comic-Con, I kind of kept it in that category. It probably wasn't until 2008 or 2009 maybe that I said, okay, let's give this a try and let's really do this. And now it's been a staple, and we've, you know, messed with Hasbro every year for all this time and have a really good kind of understanding of how the booth works and all of that and the entire process. So do make sure to listen for updates, or I should say watch for updates. We've got a lot of other tip videos coming out and podcasts and all of that stuff, so you can watch for those. We give all sorts of information to help you at the con, and why it's most important is because the rules of the game constantly change at a convention the size of San Diego Comic-Con. And so everything that you've just watched in this video could go out the door. They could do an online lottery the day before the convention. I mean, you just never know what they come up with. When you remember, all of these businesses are at these cons for very temporary times. So they are kind of thinking on their feet and changing things as they go. A lot of these cons, I mean, they're making product, but in terms of the operations sides of things, in terms of how queuing will work and all of that, a lot of times they're just thinking about that a week or so out from the cons. Now, I'm not speaking for Hasbro in particular, but I'm just talking about in general. A lot of the employees that work the booths are temporary employees at San Diego Comic-Con, and so everybody's kind of figuring things out, and things change all the time. And as I said, it was just 2 years ago that the entire preview night lineup changed at Hasbro after many years of having a booth there. And so you have to be nimble, you have to be dynamic, you have to be ready to go. Anything we find out, whether it be before the con, during the con, at any point, we will share on social media. And obviously the SDCCblog.com, the unofficial San Diego Comic-Con blog, has so much information, more information than anywhere that you can find on the web about what is going on, whether it be at Hasbro or Artist Alley or any other part of the convention. So do follow along with them, read their articles. I know it's one of the things that I make kind of a ritual as I'm leading up to San Diego Comic-Con, to follow along all the news there, because there's just too much on social media even to keep up with. So follow along there as well. All right, we are wrapping up here, and until next time, we'll see you in line at San Diego Comic-Con.